Howdy folks, let's now go over selectors in WebdriverIO. Selectors allow us to query elements on a page and interact with them. WebdriverIO supports all valid CSS query selectors, where if you look here, H2 is a tag, an element tag, the dot subheading is a class, and the A is another element. The easiest way to go over this is looking at some examples. So I've got a website here. This is just a basic website. It has a lot of like HTML things on it. So we're going to use this. So let's try to find this text here, the welcome to the internet. So if we right click here, we can inspect. And if you look, it has an H1 tag here. It has a class of heading. So there's a few different ways we can grab this. To use valid CSS selectors, we can look for just the class of heading. And to do that, we can just do this. Whenever it's a class, you always prefix it with a dot. So now this should select this whole element here. And what we can do from that is now get the text of this. So let's do that now. So we can do heading.getText. Let's console.log that. Let's assign it some text. All right, let's run this. So it runs. And now here's our output from console.log. Welcome to the internet. And that's what this is. So we were able to actually grab that text from that. Another way we can do that is, if we wanted to, we can reference the element tag itself by doing just h1 dot heading. That would work as well. That's a valid CSS selector like that. Another way that we can do this is just by the h1 tag, and or we could do it by any tag that equals a text. So let's come down here to the available examples here, inspect, and that brings us here. So we have an h2 tag and available examples. So we can actually get a hold of this element by doing something like this. We can do h2 equals, and then we're looking for the text, available examples. So now we're just getting the text of that. It doesn't really make much sense to get the text if we're searching by the text, but it still gets the element. So here you can see it logged our available examples. If it couldn't find this, it would error out. So good. So we've got that. We can also, let's go down to some of these links. Let's look at broken images. Let's inspect that. And now, so we don't have a class. A lot of times, if you do have a class or an ID, you'll want to use that before doing the like equal sign here. It's just more cleaner, more well accepted, and the proper way to do it. But we don't always have that as testers, so sometimes we don't have access to the backend code, so we have to deal with what we have. So let's say we want to get a hold of this link and get the text. Or let's click this link. So we can also do, so we have broken images text. We can go here. We can also do something like A equals. You can do any element that equals. So you can do an A or an LI or a UL. Any of that's valid. So equals, what's the text? Broken images. So now, let's just click it. And the click and the get text that we've seen are built-in WebDriver methods. I will go over these more in a later video, but we don't need to assign that to text. So now let's actually pause so that we can actually see what happens. And pause is a built-in WebdriverIO method that will just pause execution. You really only want to use the pauses for debugging purposes. So now let's try to click the broken images link. Good. So now it clicked it. It was kind of fast. You can see it brought us to this page first, and then it clicked this broken images link, which is great. So it did what we wanted it to do. We can also, if we wanted to, for an A tag, we don't have to have the A. We can just do that. Just have an equal, and that will work. So good. So that worked there. So let's match it by partial text. So if we only want to be able to match by, I don't know, for some odd reason we can only get the images, or we don't know what broken is actually is at the time, we can just look for images and it will find that. So actually, let's get the text of this one. I'll just console it in this. So it should output the full text now. And boom, broken images, created the whole text. And we were able to just search by that. You may have noticed I created a new file for this, selectors.test. And if you noticed when I'm running this, I actually have -s spec selectors. So we actually don't have to specify the full file path. It'll actually try to find any tests that match selectors when we do just that. So sometimes that's good if you've got like some nested files and you're not really sure what the directory structure is or all that. It makes it easy to just be able to specify a pattern to spec. So we've got that. Let's see, what can we do next? We can also, so one thing here is in the first one where we grabbed by heading. So heading, there's only one heading on the page, but if there was multiple headings, you'd get errors. So you want to make sure that you're only getting one element. If you were to use an ID, we don't have any, or like ID content, the specifications for IDs, there should only be one on the page. So you can almost guarantee a lot of times that there will only be one ID on the page, but sometimes people don't adhere to those. So I wouldn't always assume that. All right, so we've got that. If we did have multiple elements on the page, you can actually use the $$ to get an array of elements. I'm not going to go into that too much now, but you can get an array and loop over that and do what you need to. All right, so let's go to, let's look at this UL. So we've got this UL and a bunch of LIs. So one thing that we can do here is a lot of times, like, I don't know if you come from a lot of front-end development, you'll need to like get the closest previous element. So if we're currently on the UL element, have that selected, and we need to get to the div, we can do that. So we can grab the UL. Sometimes this would be dynamic, so you don't really know. So this example doesn't really make that much sense. But we can chain elements from the UL or from inside this $ function. So we can also do dot another $, and in this case we're going to do dot, which is actually going to bring us up to this div here. So let's assign this text. We can get the text here. So if you look, we should be on this element, and we're going to get all the text inside of this element. And the text is going to be anything visually on the screen. It's not going to be any of these element tags or anything. It's only going to be the text that's outputted. So if we do this, we should see a lot of content in our console when we log this. So let's see. All right, good. So you see how we have a bunch of text. This is all the text from the page pretty much. So you have welcome to the internet, welcome to the internet, and then it also starts at the A/B testing. A/B testing. So good. So the next thing we can do, we can also search inside the UL. So if we wanted to, we could, so if maybe we had, like I said before, we had multiple classes, maybe we had multiple headings, but we're going to start here. We're going to start at the UL element right here. We're going to start here on the UL, and we want to search for things only inside of this UL element tag. So we're not going to search for anything in here. We just want in here. So let's just search for checkboxes. Let's see if we can find that here. So we can do li equals boxes. Now let's console.log that text, and we should get checkboxes. Good, we got checkboxes. We can also click click. Let's put the pause on there again. So to log it and click it, but did not click it. Why did it not click it? Is it li checkboxes? Let's try this let's debug. Let's see what happened there. Let me comment this out for now. What did we do wrong? Interesting. Okay. Get text, check boxes. It is check boxes, right? Check boxes. Oh, it's not an li, it's an a. You see how I did that? So I did li. There was still an element underneath li, which is incorrect. The text has to be the direct text of the link. So now we should get the text correctly. Checkboxes. Oh, I'm on browser pause. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So now we should get it. Boom, we've got it. So now let's click it this time. I'm gonna get rid of that. So now we can do ul dot, instead of li, let's change this to a. And now it should click it. Let's pause. All right, it clicked it. So now it went to the checkboxes screen. Perfect. All right, so that is a basic overview of the selectors on how to use those with WebdriverIO. I will put some links into this YouTube with different ways to, more in-depth ways of finding CSS selectors and other ways. There's also XPath selectors. I will probably make a video of that by itself. I will also post this on the a link to the GitHub page that showed all of the things that we clicked.